kids don't have an idea of what they want to be or what they want to do. And I thought I was no different. But when I was about 12 years old, my Aunt Mickey, who was my favorite aunt, took me to the RKOT Theater, and they had a movie and a variety show. And Judy Garland was in the show, Mickey Rooney was in the show, they had a live band, they had dancers, they had a comic, and I was awesomely struck. I said, somehow or other, that means something to me because I've never enjoyed anything that much. And I didn't think about it as a future career of any kind because one, I didn't think it was possible, and two, I really wasn't thinking. All I know is I had a great time. And at that same time, our other entertainment used to be radio, and we would listen to Jack Benny at night. My mom would iron in the kitchen, and the other women in my house would play a game called Casino, which is a card game that some Jewish people play. And it was a lot of... so my life was going to school, listening to the radio, and but every Friday for a while, I skipped school to go to the RKOT because each week they had a different show and I was going to go see it. And that lasted about 5 weeks, and then I got caught. And it's the only time my father ever laid a hand on me. He was so angry that I had skipped school. So I didn't go Friday anymore, but I went every Saturday to see a new show and a new movie. But I didn't care about the movie. I cared about the entertainment part of it. Okay, so now I grew up, and now I moved from Boston to Chicago with my folks, and everybody that I went to school with in my senior year in Chicago went to college. So I decided I had better go to college too. So I went to a place called the University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana, and for one semester, while I was there, and that's all I lasted. Well, and the reason for that is they had 40,000 people at the university. In my city, and where I grew up and knew, we had 10,000 people. So I was a lot out of my element. I didn't belong at all. All I remember about that was, I didn't remember about the schooling, I didn't remember about too much, except that when my laundry got dirty, we didn't have washing machines then. That's how long ago it was. Wow. We took our dirty clothes, put it in a big container, put 4 straps in, and send it home for Ma to wash. They would do our laundry and send it back to us. That's my memory of the University of Illinois. But I did meet a good friend at college, and when I left university, I came back to Chicago. I went to a place called Wright Junior College, and I decided if I took 12 credits, I would get out of school early. And one of the classes they had that gave me 3 credits, and they promised no homework. I said, I got to take that class. So I took, and that class was theater. I had never seen a play. I did not know theater. I knew movies. I heard the radio. And we just about had television then in Chicago. And we didn't have the cable now. So Chicago had its own shows. New York had their shows. There was no coaxial cable.
Nope. I don't think anyone's
Now
here.
you're trying to feel how old I really am. Because that was a time of my life. So anyway, I took theater, and with it, in the theater group was a friend of mine. His name was Glenn Falkenstein. he went to school with me at the University of Illinois, and he became my friend. And he was he was a magician, mind reader. He married a very into a magic family. Paul, you know all those, you know Glenn, and you know his wife, and you know, he was wonderful. Glenn just decided that he wanted to have security, so instead of making it his entire life, he became a school teacher, and he did magic on the side, and he did mentalism on the side. But he became a speech therapist and was in college. We lost Glenn a couple of years ago. So he said, you know what, Ed, we should do an act. Now I know you're not going to believe this, but while I was doing theater, I was also doing variety shows at Wright Junior College. And to prove that I'm not lying, I'm going to show you pictures you won't believe. Just pass them along. The girl with the wig is me. We did an act called Princess Maha. And he would say, "That's true, Princess Maha?" And my whole part was to say, "Uh-huh."
You're so pretty.
So that was my time at Wright Junior College. And when I left there, I went to work for my dad. And I wish I was a better son. And I'm saying that to my two boys who are sitting here. Because my father depended on me. He had a cleaning store, 2 cleaning stores. And he used me for deliveries and for help so that he didn't have to hire people to do that. Well, I seriously loved my dad, and I seriously wanted to help him. But the other part of the story I didn't tell you is when I went to high school, I played trumpet. Because when we went to school, they gave children instruments to play, and I took trumpet lessons, 50 cents a week, and the teacher came to my house. So when we moved to Chicago, I wanted to continue with my trumpet, so another friend of mine introduced me to someone in Chicago, a trumpet player, who was playing at the Chicago Theater Band and in the orchestra. And so my greatest thrill was to go to the Chicago Theater, which had big acts, big names, movies, and 4 shows a day. And so I would go backstage, wait for Connie, get a cup of coffee, go out, and then I'd go about my day. Well, one day I had the van loaded with clothes, and before I made the deliveries, I thought I would just stop by the Chicago Theater and go backstage, because there was something very alive about them. And of course I did that, and when I came back, all the clothes were stolen.
Oh no.
So I didn't work for my father anymore. My next job was but all this leads up to somebody directing me, not me directing my life. And so I got a job at Chandler's Shoe Store. It's a ladies' shoe store in Chicago. I don't know if they're around the country, but at that time they were a very big outfit. And one of the other salesmen there was named Freddie Montel, and he thought himself as a singer. He had a little tiny guy like me, but he had a big voice, and he sounded like Tony Martin. And I thought, boy, that was great. And I said to him, you should make a record, you know. And again, there was a stupid thing, but believe it or not, I called Connie, and we made a record. I found a studio called Universal, and we got the musicians through my friend Connie, and it cost $600. And we sold it to a record company in Chicago called Chance Records. And all they asked me to do was they're going to give me 100 records to go around to the radio station to get played, which is what I did. I didn't get paid for the recording session, and of course we didn't sell any records, so we didn't make any royalties besides. But doing that, I met a lot of the people at the radio station and some of the record people who went around town, and I related to them in a big way because I loved, wasn't the job, I loved the songs, I loved the records, I loved the lyrics. I always, I'm hypnotized by lyrics. Sometimes I hear a song while I'm driving and I pull off the road. One of them was, drumming my fate with your fingers. I heard that line and I said, holy cow. And anyway, there I was, went the record that didn't sell, but I had walked around the radio stations in Chicago and I got a job. I got a job for Mercury Records being the Midwest promotion there. And so my job was to go around the Midwest and promote their records. And one of the records I had was by a girl who used the name of Robin Hood. Before she was Robin Hood, she used the name Wendy Way. And before that, I think her name was Goldstein or something. And Mercury had a little side business. They would make records for people and put them out, but the people had to pay for them and promote them and do all those things. So my job was to take her around to the radio stations, and the first place I took her to was not Chicago but Milwaukee. And at that time, one of the biggest baseball players who came from Boston Braves to go to the Milwaukee Braves was a guy named Eddie Mathews. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's one of the most famous baseball players in the world. So there I was in Milwaukee for the first time, going to a radio station at 11 o'clock at night for the late night disc jockey. His name, and I went through a stop sign, and I was stopped by the police, and the policeman said, "What are you doing out here late at night?" And by the way, this girl had blonde hair, fuzzy, big blonde hair, and she was pretty, like my friend Peter. So the police stopped us. He shined a light in, and he said, "What are you doing here? And who's the broad?" I said, "That's Robin Hood." And he said, "Give me," and I'm putting on my license, I'm giving my license. He said, "And who are you?" I said, "Eddie Mathews." He said, "Get out of the car." So I got out of the car, I showed him my license, it was Eddie Mathews. I showed him her record, it was Robin Hood. He said, "You're going to get in so much trouble in this town." He said, "Where are you going?" I told him I'm going to the radio station, and he took us there. We followed him. And we did the late night show, and the nighttime jockey thought that was the funniest thing he ever heard. So, but we had an appointment to meet the morning disc jockey the next morning. There was a radio station, WEMP. I can remember things that happened then, and today I can't remember most everything. But anyway, we got there the next morning. We stayed at a town hotel, and we got there the next morning. And waiting for us was the morning disc jockey, the newspaper, the Sentinel, the Milwaukee Sentinel. They got Eddie Mathews to come down to the station. The morning disc jockey got us to take a picture. There was Eddie Mathews on one side, I on the other, and the disc jockey in the middle saying, "They're both looking for hits."
Yeah.
Well, this was like my first this was my first week on the job. So now I had to go around the country, or really the Midwest, and disc jockeys not only took payola, they were really a pain in the ass. And they were really mean to a lot of people. But every station I walked into, they greet, oh, please come in. You got to tell that story on the air. So I must have told that story on every radio station in the Midwest for every disc jockey in the country. And my company was very proud of me for that. And they gave me a raise. And anyway, from there I moved on to Chicago. From Chicago, because Mercury Records is in Chicago. I moved to New York. And in New York, I had similar experiences. Everything just kind of fell into place, and I worked for Mercury Records in New York, and they didn't have a job for me, but they liked me so much that they gave me an office next to Quincy Jones. I was sitting in Mercury with no job, and they used to use me as, they called me a troubleshooter. But they just liked me. They used to go, he's a good kid. They pat me on the head. By now I'm in the 20s, and they treated me like 14. I just was bar mitzvah, So, but I did a lot of special things for them. Dinah Washington just had a hit record, just so you know about the era, what a difference a day makes. And they had her follow-up session to do. And she got to the session, the voices are there, the strings are there, everybody's there, and Dinah says, I can't sing. I lost my voice. They said, we got all these people here now. I can't sing, I lost my voice. I'm sorry, Mark. She had that problem too. So anyway, my boss called me over and he said, Ed, I want you to go to this address. It's now midnight, and go in. And the address was a furrier, and I went to the furrier. He had called some furrier, and they gave me this big fur coat. I came back to the studio with it. He gave it to Dinah, and all of a sudden her voice came back. So I've got a million stories like that, but I'm not going to bore you with them because some of them are not as funny, but they were life learning lessons. And then while I was at Mercury, my boss left to go to another company, United Artists Records. So I went with him and became National Promotion Director of United Artists Records. And I worked with people like Don Costa and Stephen Eady, and it was a really great time for the record business. And one day I walked into a publishing office, and there was a kid singing and playing piano, and that happened to me twice. But this time I said, gee, he's fantastic. And every song that came out of his mouth sounded like a hit. His name was Gene Pittman. So United Artists signed him. His manager was Aaron Schroeder, who was a big music publisher. And between Aaron Schroeder and the president of United Artists, they formed a little bit of a record company called Musical Records. And I was their third partner. I was 25% owner of the company. And we had 5 or 6 hits in a row. And I had just done something that I had done several times. I never got around to signing the contract. And so when it came time for the contract, I said, now, guys, I would like to, sign the contract and get everything going. And they used an excuse that if I had a lawyer, I would have known better. They said, well, between Aaron and I, we own a great percent of the company. If we gave you 25%, then you would really be in control because you could choose who you're going to vote for. all I had to say was I don't want any votes, just the money. But I didn't know any better, and so I sued them, and I got $25,000, which was a lot of money. And I left them, and I got another job at running another record company called Laurie Records. And at that time, Dion had just left Laurie, and we had the Chiffons. We had Jerry and the Pacemakers. We had a lot of hits. And I left that company to go to Columbia Records, and I had a job there running one of their subsidiary record companies. And there I met my friend. I have a friend here, Tim O'Brien, who worked with me at Columbia Records. Tim was a very, very talented producer. He went on to start his own record company, had lots of hits, and I'm trying to get him to semi-retire. He's taping. Oh, okay. So anyway, that's where I met Tim, and I met Joan. And by that time, I met a wonderful girl named Valerie, who I later married. I met her in New York. I lived on 72nd Street on the east side, and the electricity went off in New York. There was no electricity from all the way down to 2nd Avenue, I don't know, not 2nd Avenue, but the other side of New York. And she and her girlfriend knew my roommate, who was also a singer, and they walked all the way, and we always walked in New York anyway, but there was no traffic and it was just dark, and they walked over to our apartment because the electricity started at 71st, and we were on 72nd. So they came to our house for electricity and some pizza, and that's where I met my wife. And she was engaged at the time to, you're not going to believe this, but why she took me rather than him, but she was engaged to the heir of the Howard Johnson family. He was an agent at MCA, and she worked at MCA, the agency. And we met, and...
Wait, I know why. She said he smelled like egg salad.
No,
she told me he always smelled like egg salad.
My son tells me stories about things that I don't remember. I don't remember a lot anyway, but I don't remember that.
She told me, you didn't.
Oh, she told you?
Yes.
Well, that was a good thing, but I'm glad I smelled like something that she liked. But she was the difference in my life. She was everything after that, and she still is. Anyway, I'll move forward to tell you that after that, Tim left Columbia and he went to Paramount Records, and I followed him to Paramount Records. And the owner, the managers of Paramount Records, the president, the vice president, very nice people, but they really didn't know what they were doing. They made lots of mistakes, and they closed, and the record company got closed. And so I was out of work, and like Tim, who started his own record company, because of my wife, we went into the art business, and she had opened up a little poster gallery a couple of years before, and while at the art gallery, I learned how to do frames and cut glass, and somebody walked in as salesman representing. He said, I have some art here. I wonder if you'd be interested in selling it. And I said, we were selling $10 posters and $100 frames. And these arts were $300, $400, $500. I said, they're beautiful, but we can't do that. So he said, but I liked the stuff so much, I said, I'll tell you what, you're driving around in your car showing your art. Why didn't you come to my gallery, use this as a free office. We'll hang some of the art pictures up on the wall, and we'll go from there. And we did that. And the thing sold like that. All of a sudden we were selling $500 pieces of art along with the $10 poster. So I rented a space of 10,000 square feet in the design section area of LA, and put that artwork in there. I didn't have money, and the rent was $10,000 a month. And I talked the guy into giving us the space. We hung the gallery, and we never looked back. I made the $10,000 a month. We were selling art like crazy. We changed the art scene in LA. We brought pastels and things in that weren't very popular at the time. And life was wonderful. We were doing $1 million a year there, from going from the $10 poster page. But the pressure was great. And in order to relieve the pressure, we bought a place in Palm Springs to go away for the weekend. And that's where a lot of my friends would come and join us, and we would spend weekends in Palm Springs. And that kind of changed my life, because when I left the office of our company, which was called Incurable Collector, I would be like this. And the closer we got to Palm Springs, the nicer it became. And on Sundays, when I had to go back, I'd go back in the car, and as I got closer to LA, it started getting like that. So I really knew that I couldn't keep this up. We had a lot of employees. I felt responsible for everybody. So, but the publisher of the artwork to buy my business, and he was cash poor because he had all his money invested in printing presses and all these things. So I became a partner in his business, and I convinced him to sell his business so I could get out and get some money. Actually, we did sell the business early, and the day that we were going to get paid, which was millions of dollars, the market crashed. I don't know, I was in the 70s, I guess, and the 80s. The market absolutely crashed on that day we were going to sign. So it took us another 6 months, and we didn't get the same kind of money. But that was it. I retired. And this all leads up to the fact that now that we were retired, what were we going to do with the rest of our life? We had 5 wonderful kids, got a wonderful life, but we didn't feel like we wanted to stay in California. So we drove across country, and on our way back up to Yellowstone Park, the weather was so bad, we turned around and we came down and we stopped at Las Vegas. I ran into a lady. I went to buy tickets for a show, and she said, "Are you looking to buy property here?" And I said, "No." She said, "Well, a lot of people are moving here. Would you like to see some?" Well, we went to every model house that ever was always, wherever we were. So I said, "Okay," and we came up, and we came and saw Sun City. There were a lot of little stories in between. But my wife fell in love with Sun City because there was a sewing room, sewing club, a sewing room. They had sewing machines all over the place. And she sat in front of the lady, and she said, "I love it, let's move here." And I said, "This is Las Vegas. This Lake Mead was 2 lanes. I mean, the only street here was Decatur. That's where the one movie theater was. There was nothing here. But my recollection of of Vegas was that I managed a girl singer, and I booked her into Belden Cattleman's, what the hell was the name of his hotel? Big hotel. Joey Lewis was the headliner of the show, and she was the girl singer. And I met the security guard, and he took me all around the state of the hotel in these cabins. And they kept the girls there, and the girls were the dancers, and they were kind of drugged up, and they were there for the men. And it was really one of the most disappointing things I ever saw. And I said, it's a terrible place. I thought Las Vegas was awful. But my wife said, well, we're going to move to Las Vegas. So I said, you really don't understand. She said, no, you don't understand. You picked every house we ever lived in. You made every decision. We're moving to Los Angeles. So that day I bought a house that wasn't built yet. They took us on a Jeep, they drove us up to this land. They said, that's the land. I said, okay. I picked the smallest house I could because I figured that would be the easiest to sell in a year. Well, I have been in Los Angeles, living here longer than Boston, Chicago, New York, California, and I had a life experience because I came there to retire. And a gentleman named Gone called me, and he said, I own several hotels, and we just opened up the Suncoast, and we're looking to get some business into the Suncoast. We understand that in Sun City there are several performers and dancers who've all moved here, and we would like to put on a variety show at the Suncoast Hotel, and we've asked people who we could get to do it, and they said your name came up because you were running a talent show in Sun City, which I was with all the performers. And we said, can you do it? And I said, sure. But honestly, I didn't know anything about real live shows. I had no real experience with variety shows except to see them and live entertainment. But I said, sure, why not? And I did it. And I did it for nothing, because they didn't pay any money, and everybody did it for nothing. And it seems like there's a circle happening. But anyway, I did the shows, and I used all Sun City people. And eventually I went to them and I said, you know, I think we can do more interesting shows if we have a greater place to choose talent from. And by that time, he let first one who was not a Sun City performer was Jay
Joseph. So
he joined the show with the others. And he was very helpful in me doing the shows. But I had an argument with him. It was one of the few arguments I had with everybody, because all the acts would go to Jay and say, hey Jay, what do you think we should do? And I kept saying, hey guys, you know, I said, Jay, you're taking over my show and I don't want to. And he said, well, I don't need to take over your shows. If everybody's coming to me, and I was not contributing as much as I think I should or could, because I didn't know any better. But since then, all of the performers here have really been part of those variety shows and have made me look like I really knew what I was doing. but after 15 or 20 years,
I'm really rich. No, that's not. That wasn't me.
But after 15 or 20 years, I really didn't learn what I was doing. I kind of innately, it was like going to college. It was better than going to college. And now, anytime I see a show, I say, oh, that's terrible. Oh, that's wrong. They could do better. The tempo's wrong. So anyway, but now I'm 90. I'm here. I've given up doing shows. And now I have to figure out what to do with the rest of my life. But I tell you the truth, I feel like I did when I was in California and 30 years old. And I really have to thank all of you individually. Genevieve was so much part of my show. Mark was there at the beginning. I met them at the Bootlegger. Mark at the Bootlegger with my now roommate, Bill Fain, who I didn't know would be my roommate 20 years later. And Vita was our music director at the Samstown shows we did. And, oh no, not at Samstown, at Mesquite, because all of a sudden I really started to make some money. And life was very, very good. Las Vegas has been very good to me. It's my new home, and it's my old home because I've been here for so long. But I want to thank all of you. Carmine, I don't want to leave anybody else. Even Mrs. Vanek, who is not a singer, who helped did some great videos for the show. She helped a lot. And everybody, all of you, have been responsible for what little good luck and success we've had, and making a wonderful life for myself. So I want to thank you all for coming. I don't want to forget Ron Cabildo. Ron was one of the first acts at, he had a band, and we had a contest that the winning band was going to get $1 million or some big deal, part of $1 million. All they had to do was work 7 nights a week for 10 years. And then when they came, they kept saying, no, we can't do that. There's too many nights. They said, all right, well, we'll take that much money away from the prize. But Ron happens to be one of the most talented marketing people, management people, music people in town. And I predict, like Tim O'Brien, who became a big success, he's going to be one of the big guys in Vegas in the future. He's already started. He's already got a lot going on, and he's going to be. And Miss Telford is one of the many people who did our show, and I'll move forward to Mark, who I mentioned, and the Smiths, who've been the lifeline of our family kind of show. Lou Demise, who's been our master of ceremony for almost everything. Who am I forgetting? Well, I didn't forget Robin. Robin is, of all of you, and I love you all, Robin is my favorite singer of all you people. Because I met Robin and she was singing rock and roll and dressed up and singing songs with whips. and she sang some of the ABBA songs that made me cry. She sang the song from the movie, I want to say Venezuela. I don't know.
Make her cry now.
We're Argentina.
Argentina.
I sang whatever you suggested.
Honestly, if anybody should have been in New York on a Broadway stage in Memphis, it should have been her. And I really mean it. So I hope I got everybody covered in here.
Don't forget Lou.
Don't forget Lou. Lou
Oh, you did, Lou?
Yeah, I did.
Oh.
Lou was the master of ceremony. There was a lot of it. It was everything. So, I just want you to say again, this is my son Michael. He's part of my life. This is my son Jack and his wife. She was originally from France, and her name is Nathalie. Not Natalie.
No, it's Natalie. It's not Nathalie.
N-A-T-H. I don't care what you say. And
No way.
we've been having the best time. She comes over every Monday and we go to the pool. And my life is terrific. I just got to figure out something to do with it from here on in. But thank you all for coming. And there should be some wine here. Not wine, it's supposed to be champagne. And I'd like to drink. Salute to all of you. Thank you all.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Love you, Anne.
Okay.
Thank you, Anne. Happy birthday. We thank you too, Mr. Mathews.
Oh.
Happy birthday to you.
Out of two. All of performers. Find the
No, let Bill leave. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ed. Happy birthday to you.
To life.
Did everybody see these pictures? Because you wouldn't.
they're great.
But you wouldn't believe it.
The only reason I said Bill thinks I'm my kid.
There you go.
No, I was looking. The reason I have that is Vita called and said she wanted to do something with some pictures. I don't know what she did with them. Nobody knew my life story.
I can't believe I never asked. I just